It was daytime, and somewhere in the Jammu region stood the Supreme Chamber of the Federal Senate of the Jammu sector. Not long after, Liu Sheng arrived. When the door opened, with a serene expression, Liu Sheng began to walk inside. Lan, who had his arms crossed, started to follow him in silence. In the Supreme Chamber of the Federal Senate, two people were waiting for our boy's arrival. It was the elder with elf ears and the blonde woman. The elder's eyes began to shine with surprise and joy. He couldn't believe that the legendary warrior Liu Sheng had come. The woman's attention fixed on our boy, making her feel somewhat nervous. Without wasting any more time, the elder grabbed Liu Sheng's hand and, with a sincere expression, gave him a warm welcome. He couldn't believe that Liu Sheng was a true hero at such a young age. With a curious gaze, the woman began to observe our boy. Liu Sheng began to ponder in silence, not knowing what to say. The elder and the woman closed their eyes and began to show charming smiles. While they were conversing, Lan's eyes filled with tranquility, a smile appearing on his face. He had just understood. This was an immortal level being. He couldn't believe that Liu Sheng was the same person he had recruited in the White Mist Zone. Lan's eyes began to shine with joy. He understood that life sometimes offers a blessing of fortune, and that his duty was to hold on to our boy with all his might. Liu Sheng began to show a pleasant smile. Lan's attention fixed on our boy, and he couldn't help but smile. He felt that this time, he hadn't just tightly gripped the hand of the goddess of fortune. He had hugged her with all his might. Lan's eyes widened with confidence, and the image of Liu Sheng smiling came to his mind. He knew that Liu Sheng was the greatest fortune of his entire life. Not even winning the grand prize of the Xingyun lottery would come close to 1/10,000th of its value. The elder placed his hand over his chest and with a smile mentioned that he was Pavlov Sebastian, chairman of the House of Representatives of the Jammu Sector Federation. Liu Sheng simply began to smile in silence. Sebastian extended his hand toward the blonde woman and introduced her as Ecclesia, the chief of law enforcement of the Jammu sector. She placed her hand over her chest as a sign of respect and with a smile mentioned that it was an honor for her to meet the powerful warrior Liu Sheng. With a gaze full of determination, Sebastian clenched his fist. He declared that, from this night on, Liu Sheng's name would spread throughout the entire Jammu sector and that, even in the distant future, these two words would make the cosmos itself tremble. As our boy's eyes shone with serenity, he replied that the chairman was very kind, but was overestimating him. Ecclesia approached our boy and in a serious tone revealed that, with the Jammu sector as the center radiating out to the surroundings, there were a total of 13 sectors. Hearing this, Liu Sheng's attention fixed on her, leaving him somewhat curious. She began to gaze intently at our boy, revealing that since the founding of the Federation of Star Sectors, in almost 1,000,000 years, and among trillions of planets with life, a transcendent, immortal level being had never appeared. For this reason, it was no exaggeration to call Liu Sheng the greatest genius this region of the universe had seen in 1,000,000 years, a genius unprecedented in all of history. Liu Sheng's eyes widened in surprise and confusion. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. Liu Sheng took a step forward, extended his hand, and asked if truly, among the hundreds of trillions of individuals spread across 13 star sectors, only one transcendent, immortal level body like his had emerged. His mind filled with confusion. But then he rationalized it. He understood that his stellar supreme physique was destined to reach level 15, and even 16. In the entire star domain, powerhouses of that caliber must be extremely rare. That being the case, it was reasonable that he was the only one in more than a dozen sectors in 1,000,000 years. With a serene gaze, Sebastian explained to our boy that, normally, if an immortal level being were to emerge in a star sector, the Lord of the Galaxy would undoubtedly send someone to investigate. He added that he might have the opportunity to join their ranks and receive the legacy of the System Lord. Liu Sheng began to listen to Sebastian attentively. With a smile, Sebastian extended his hand and assured him that, until the Lord of the Galaxy sent his representatives, the Yamu sector would provide him with all its support in his cultivation. Hearing this, Liu Sheng couldn't help but feel somewhat confused and asked what they meant by total support. Sebastian closed his eyes and nodded, then directed his gaze toward the floor and revealed that, although Liu Sheng was of immortal level, only at level 9 for now, and the resources of an entire star sector like theirs were more than enough to sustain just him. Liu Sheng put his hand under his chin and, with a smile, questioned if, in that case, he was free to present any petition. Liu Sheng began to show a joyful gaze, Sebastian's attention fixed on him, causing his mind to fill with confusion. He didn't know what our boy had in mind. Sebastian began to touch his cheek, forcing a smile. He assured him that he could ask for whatever he wanted and they would listen, promising to do everything possible to fulfill it if it was within their reach. However, a thought invaded his mind, fearing that Liu Sheng was about to demand something outrageous. While Sebastian was lost in thought, Liu Sheng began to shake his hand. With a sincere gaze, our boy revealed that he didn't need resources for his cultivation. What he needed was a habitable planet large enough to settle his compatriots from his home planet. Sebastian's eyes widened in confusion and surprise. Sebastian and Ecclesia looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Liu Sheng remained silent, awaiting Sebastian's response. Lan began to observe our boy with a curious expression. Lan's eyes began to shine with surprise, admiring that he had always cared about his backward home planet. Lan stared intently at our boy, a proud smile appearing on his face. He reflected that perhaps this was the root of Liu Sheng's meteoric rise, the singular educational system of the Dragon Nation. It was truly an enigmatic country. Not long after, several servants carrying plates of food began to rush towards the dining hall. Although day and night did not exist in space, the human custom of measuring stellar time persisted. Just as this stellar day, equivalent to about 3 blue planet days, was about to conclude, a banquet of unparalleled magnificence was being feverishly prepared. They began to prepare a banquet. If it weren't for the fact that each and every one had felt this miraculous phenomenon of the cosmos celebrating in unison, no one would have dared to believe in the birth of an immortal level being. A powerful blast of energy descended from space upon the planet, and not long after, hundreds of spaceships appeared in the sky like stars. These countless ships plied the space between the main planet and its 10 satellites, creating a spectacular scene of incessant traffic on a cosmic scale. All for the sole purpose of glimpsing the creator of this prodigy. It was night, and as the moon shone high in the sky, somewhere stood the grand banquet hall. Milton, wearing elegant attire, appeared, ready to attend the banquet. Beside him was his sister, Xiao Xiao, who was somewhat nervous as she wore a ceremonial outfit. The grand banquet hall was packed with guests. Milton's attention fixed on them, and, with a curious gaze, he mentioned that this was the first immortal in the history of the Yamu sector, and the news was just beginning to spread. He reflected that, if they waited a few more days, the scale of the event would multiply 100-fold, and the entire Yamu sector probably wouldn't be able to handle it. As Xiao Qiu's eyes were shining, she began to observe the guests in silence. With a serious expression, Milton turned to his sister and insisted that, when that person appeared later, she must do absolutely everything possible to win his friendship. Xiao Qiao felt somewhat surprised and couldn't help but blush like a tomato, asking with a nervous smile if he really wanted her to do this. She placed her hand on her chest and looked away, wondering if such an important person would find her acceptable. Milton grabbed Xiao Qiao by the arm, leaned in close to her, and with a piercing gaze made it clear that she had to succeed. He was convinced that, with her beauty, the only reason she could possibly fail was if this immortal level genius didn't like women. Xiao Qiu's eyes filled with sadness. She didn't know what to do. Just then, someone touched Milton's butt. With a furious expression, Milton turned around, thinking that even if the genius didn't like women, that wasn't a problem either. Once Milton turned around, he saw two men. With an arrogant expression, the man with elf ears recognized him and exclaimed mockingly, "Milton, the pig killer." With a smile, the other man asked Milton if he had met his quota for the day. Calling him pig killer, Milton's eyes widened with rage, causing him to clench his teeth tightly. Meanwhile, the man mentioned that they had heard the news. The man with elf ears mocked him, calling him the 150-year-old god of war, the cruel executioner of pigs. With an expression full of rage, Milton turned around and decided it was time to leave this place. Once Milton turned around, he saw that his sister had disappeared. He couldn't help but feel somewhat confused. Not knowing where she was, Milton's eyes began to glow. It raged as he realized that even Chiao Chiao despised him. He told himself that he had to find this person and make them announce out loud, in front of the entire Yamu sector, that he, Milton Singh, did not have strange fetishes and was not the pig killer. Fuming, Milton began to search for his sister. With an arrogant smile, the man with elf ears told his friend to keep spreading Milton's story, as he considered him finished. However, he pointed out that Milton's sister, Chiao Chiao, could be their competition. With a confused look, his friend questioned if the story was true or false. The elf-eared man's eyes began to glow with malice. To him, it didn't matter if the story was true or not. If it was useful to them, then it was true. Lan Che was also present at the banquet. Poor Lan Che was depressed. Milton's attention fixed on him. He couldn't believe Lan Che had come too. A confident smile spread across his face as he considered that if they couldn't get close to that great figure, allying with Lan Che was a very good alternative. And this was the moment. Fuming his head from side to side, Milton began to walk around, wondering about Chiao Chiao. He realized that, right now, the key was to find her. Not far away, Chiao Chiao was chatting with a smile with Lu Sheng. Noticing this, a relieved smile spread across Milton's face, wondering who she was chatting with so cheerfully. Lu Sheng began to show a smile, and Milton panicked. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part,